Amina and the Great Green Wall. Amina was packing her school bag when the teacher, Monsieur Diallo, stopped by her desk. "Are you certain today must be your last day, Amina?" he asked. "Education is a surest path to a bright future." "I wish I could stay, Monsieur," Amina said regretfully, as she slung her school bag over her shoulder. "The hemorrhage is late again this year. The rains have not yet come. Our villages is nothing but dust and desert. The cattle have no grass or shrubs to graze on. My mother says if we take the herd farther south, we may find something growing for them to eat." "I understand, but I am worried to hear it," Monsieur Diallo said with a great sigh. "You know, when I was a boy, there were so many trees in Sahel that you could barely see the sky. But now," Monsieur Diallo just shook his head. "Indeed, all along the 8-kilometer walk home, Amina did not see a single tree. Her feet left stark prints in the sandy red soil as she passed herds of skinny white zebu cattle. The hungry cows nosed at the ground, but the earth had nothing to offer them. Since this has been a fertile place as far back as anyone could remember, Amina's community in Fulani had moved with the seasons that followed their cattle and fresh pasture. Seasons after decades of drought, however, grass struggled to grow, and the many hungry animals meant the land never had the chance to rest or restore itself. Now the Sahel was turning into a desert. At home, Amina's mother was waiting with bowls of nurigi rice, and though Amina was hungry after her long walk, she could only peek sadly at her supper. Her mother squeezed her shoulder in sympathy. "I wish you could stay in school," she said, "but we have no choice but to put the herd first. If the cows suffer, we cannot sell them or milk them. And then how will we eat? Let alone pay your school fees. What if the rains don't come? Or what if we don't find grass? What if I fall so far behind at school that I never catch up?" Amina thought. But she could see the worry lines each deep into her mother's forehead and did not ask. 6 months later, the cattle was skinnier than ever when Amina and her mother returned to the village for months. They had traveled south in search of good grazing land, but with little luck, the herd suffered for walking long distances without much food. The disease spread easily with so many animals to the move. Finally, Amina's mother decided it was time to pack up their Makaru house and head back to the village. They still did not have enough money for Amina to go back to school. Instead, she watched over the herd, which was how one day she spotted a car rumbling down the road toward the village. Curious, Amina followed the car all the way back to the village center, where a man climbed off of it. He carried a hefty stack of maps and charts, and many people gathered around to hear what he had to say. Peace be upon you. My name is Amado So, and I'm here on behalf of the Great Green Wall, the man explained. It's an African land movement to restore land across the continent, tackle desertification, and bring back prosperity. And once the villagers began peppering him with questions, and Monsieur So patiently answered each one. Amina was not sure she understood everything, but what she did learn that people were going to plant trees all across Africa. This was the Great Green Wall. Not a structure made of brick or wood, but one made of living trees to create a barrier between the desert and Sahel. They would be strong, drought-resistant trees that would help repair the landscape and fight soil erosion. The Great Green Wall will not just restore the land, it will also provide jobs and security. Monsieur So promised. Once the trees have strong roots, they will help hold water in the soil, so you can grow other crops and feed yourselves and your cattle. We will give you everything you need, training, materials, and seedlings. One day, you'll be able to tell your children you helped create a natural wonder of the world. Amina raced home as fast as her feet could carry her, and repeated everything she had heard to her mother. Amina's mother looked thoughtful. It sounds so good to be true. A miracle is what we need. Not some berry tree, she said. This is our miracle, Amina insisted, hands over her hips. He pointed to the empty landscape all around them. Besides, what do we have to lose by trying? The next day, Amina and her mother signed up to help with the local work of the Great Green Wall. There were fewer helpers than Amina had hoped, since many people had left the village to look for jobs elsewhere, but there were enough. Over the next few weeks, Monsieur So brought several hundred acacia seedlings and showed everyone how to plant them far enough apart for the roots to grow wide and strong. Next, they built fences to keep out hungry cattle and goats. It was hard work, but doing it together as a community felt powerful. There was more laughter in the village than there had been in months. When the trees have grown bigger, I will come back to show you how to prune them. Monsieur So said. The seedlings were still very small, but looking at the little specks of green poking out of the soil filled Amina's heart with hope. The hibernage was late again that year, but after it has passed, the little trees grew bigger and stronger. The plan was working. The only difficulty was that there were still many hungry animals in the village, and not everyone respected the fence. One day, Amina spied a boy standing by as his goats leaped over the barrier and began munching on the seedlings. Hey, Amina shouted. Don't you know those are big beginnings on the Great Green Wall? Pah, the boy scoffed. All I see are a bunch of small trees, and my goats are hungry now. We don't have time to wait for some imaginary wall to grow. I know it's hard to wait. I'm patient too, Amina said. Just imagine with me. One day these trees will be taller than us, taller than the houses. They will stretch from here in Senegal, all the way across the Senegal Djibouti. Djibouti. If we wait for them to grow, they'll protect us from the desert and the land will grow healthy again. Your goats will have enough to eat, and so will your family's cattle. The whole village will be better. Men won't need to leave the village to look for work. The herds can't stay close to home. The herds can't stay close to home, and children can go to school again. Isn't all that worth the wait? We just have to have patience and strength like the trees. Sure, I would like all that to happen, but it's hard to just wait, that boy admitted. Will it go faster if I help the worker on the project? Of course, Amina said. Let's start with your goats. She said. She and the boy rounded up the goats and drove them away from the growing acacia trees. 8 years later, Amina has just finished packing her bag when her teacher, Monsieur Diallo, stopped by her house in the village. He smiled proudly as she slung her bag over her shoulder, and Amina's mother did too. Are you ready for your university? He asked. It will be a big challenge moving to Dakar City. Dakar. City life is different from village life, you know. Amina looked toward the acacia forest that was growing strong and tall just outside the village. Over the last 8 years, the Great Green Wall has thrived. 18 million drought-resident trees have been planted in Senegal alone. In Amina's village, the trees have strengthened the soil and helped the grass grow back for the cattle to eat. The village had even saved enough money to pay the solar panels for the school. And Amina has been able to resume her studies. I'll miss watching the trees grow, Amina admitted as her mom squeezed her shoulder in sympathy. But I did tell you how I plan to use my scholarship. I'm going to study the environmental science and give back to the earth, just like the earth has given to me.